All the Spider-Man fans have been waiting for Spider-Noir for the longest time, and now the embargo has finally lifted, and the critics have had their say. And honestly, the reviews are very interesting. This show has Nicolas Cage's first scripted live-action lead role on TV, and the early word so far is pretty good, because this show is ambitious in whatever it's doing, and it's doing so well that the critics are arguing about it. So without much further ado, let's talk about what the critics are saying.
Bit of an existential crisis, if I'm honest.
First, let's talk about the big picture. Rotten Tomatoes rounded up the critical consensus. The headline they have finally landed on was a bold, beautiful experiment led by a gonzo Nick Cage performance. This show is a swing, and the critics agree about that, even though they don't all agree if the swing connects. We have Ernesto Valenzuela on Discussing Film, who called the show genuinely fantastic, describing it as unabashedly pulpy and oozing with style. He also pointed out that the show tells a Spider-Man story as well as a thrilling detective mystery across its 8 episodes. And for a character who had only a handful of memorable minutes in an animated film, this was a big risk, framing an entire live-action world around them. But the show managed to pull it off flawlessly, which is genuinely impressive. Bill Bria even went further, calling it one of the most exciting and creatively fertile superhero works to be released in the last couple of years. And also added, the series has a lot going for it, but it's worth watching for Cage alone. This is high praise. And for Cage's performance, well, we will get to it. When a risky show like this comes out, there is never going to be a unanimous chorus of applause. And Uramide Tinobu at Variety gave a review that raised quite a few eyebrows. She described it as a lackluster, repetitive retelling of the same old vigilante tale. She noted that the show is beautifully shot, yes, but it ultimately falls short. She pointed out something very structural, because it's true that a familiar story in a beautiful cinematography and compelling aesthetic doesn't automatically make a story something new. I don't know about you, but I feel like this is a very valid thing to push back on. Daniel Feinberg at The Hollywood Reporter landed somewhere in the middle. He called the series a disappointment, and an inconsistent disappointment, because the 8-episode run he felt was a bit too much. It would have been better as an entertaining 100-minute movie instead. He even suggested that you could skip the episode from 2 through 4, as it do not tell the story optimally. And I feel like that's a very damning detail, because I feel like if the middle act is skippable, that's a problem for a streaming show, as fans can easily click the exit button and move on. Now, let's talk about Nicolas Cage. This is his television debut at 62 years old, and understandably, critics are watching him with a magnifying glass. Alison Picaro gave the show a very positive review and zeroed in on his performance. She said, as more veteran A-list movie stars turn to the small screen, Cage has been one of the most notable holdouts. She also added that Cage told Esquire that the choice to make the show available to watch in 2 formats contributed heavily to his interest in the project. While executive producer Chris Miller said Cage was cast because of his ability to come at a character in a way that no one else would think of. She also noted that he felt that he based his performance on everyone from Humphrey Bogart to Bugs Bunny, which made his character feel like someone who had never existed before. Picaro also noted that Cage's Riley often contorts his body in strange ways, which makes it seem like he's more spider than human. Kate Kennedy, on the other hand, was more enthusiastic. She wrote that Cage threads the needle between the hard-boiled and dry humor and the just plain bizarre, noting that he's not trying to recreate a version of Spider-Man that has come before, or try to pretend to be a noir leading man. Cage basically transformed the genre template into something that could only be him. Maxence Vincent went as far as to call this one of the best performances of his career, which is a strong compliment because Nick Cage has given us Leaving Las Vegas and Mandy. Feinberg from The Hollywood Reporter had something to say about Nick Cage too. He noted that he sleeps through the first half of the series, but then, from episode 5 onwards, he goes into full Nicolas Cage. And then, in the 7th episode, we get pure uncut Nicolas Cage. While this is good that the main lead acts his ass off, there is a problem with the show if the critics feel like the first half of the show didn't utilize the main lead completely, you know? The supporting actors Lamorne Morris and Lee Jun Lee got a lot of compliments for their performance. M. N. Miller made a case specifically for Lee Jun Lee, saying that it is Lee Jun Lee who, in my opinion, delivers an award-worthy performance, bringing one of the series' few truly three-dimensional characters while bringing emotional complexity and true screen presence. Brendan Gleeson plays the villain Silvermane in the show, and this is where critics diverge sharply. You have Kyle Wilson, who called him the quintessential detective noir antagonist, and even wrote that Gleason can be both silly and terrifying, striking a perfect balance with the series' tone. But Feinberg at The Hollywood Reporter felt that this show and Gleason both deserve more than a role lifted from a generic Irish gangster template. Now, one of the most fascinating discussions around Spider-Noir is how you watch it. The series is available in black and white and in full color, and depending on which format you watch it, the show feels different. Nick Shager said the series is crafted for maximum chiaroscuro boldness and suggested that this show is best watched in black and white. But then Liz Shannon Miller at Consequence offered a different suggestion, stating that if you only wanted to watch one version, color might be my recommendation. And Feinberg argued that the cinematography doesn't optimize either for those formats and called this, at the very least, irritating. Bob Strauss at The Wrap commented on the writing of the show, concluding that all television should be this much well-done fun. But Feinberg felt that this show is much more Spider-Hard-Boiled than Spider-Noir, if we're being totally honest. Kennedy at Simply Cinema, on the other hand, framed this same point much more nicely, saying that in many ways, Spider-Noir is more of a gangster drama than it is a superhero series, which is absolutely fantastic. Kennedy also pointed out that Spider-Noir has the freedom and flexibility to do what the multiverses should do, as that it's unburdened by prior character appearances, as this show exists in Sony's Spider-Man universe and this creative freedom is very noticeable on screen. So here's the thing, the show has its perks and cons. It has ambition, yes, but it seems like the way they executed the ambition has put a lot of questions in the critics' mind. Is this show going to be one of the best shows this year, or is it another one of those super aesthetic but ultimately hollow shows that won't leave too much of a mark on pop culture? Say what you want, I feel like this is a win for a genre that has become way too predictable in the last 5 years. So I, for one, support the show wholeheartedly for the buzz it has already created. The show will premiere on MGM Plus on May 25th, and all 8 episodes will drop on Prime Video on May 27th, 2026. So let me know in the comments if you will be checking out the show or not, and what you think the audience reaction will be. And I will see you all the next time. Like and subscribe as always. Bye!